This is War Room Moments, the show that takes you around the world to share interviews with some of the most successful and most relevant people on the planet, hear their stories, and get the most important business lessons they have learned on their road to success, and get exclusive advice on how to implement their success into your life and business. War Room Moments is brought to you by the Strategic Advisor Board. Here's your host, Jason Miller.
Hey, welcome to today's episode of War Room Moments. My name is Jason Miller. I'm your podcast host. And today I have Michael Owens on with us today on the show. Michael is the owner of MACO Consulting and has owned a whole lot of other stuff other than that. Welcome to the show, Michael.
Hey, Jason. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. Honored to be here.
Yeah, awesome. Well, hey, I always like to ask people to just kind of introduce themselves a little bit. You don't have to go into great detail or anything. More importantly, what your superpower is.
Well, again, my name is Michael Owens. I've been an entrepreneur for as long as I can remember, and just really interested in business. And it's led me to a lot of different things throughout my career. And my superpower is basically understanding the ins and outs of business, processes of the business, and just financials and what have you. So, yeah.
Yeah, cool. Well, it kind of brings us into, how you've learned through business, right? Is you took that hard knocks approach. Right. Going into business when you first, because you started in the restaurant industry is kind of where you started, right? Cutting your teeth there.
Yeah.
And owned lots of restaurants. And I'm interested in that hard knocks journey that you took way back then that's got you to be so successful where you are today.
Well, my first inkling of earning money was back when I was 12 years old. And I remember that my dad told me, he goes, I asked him if I could have a stereo. And back then the speakers were like 5 feet tall and there's a turntable, And so I was wanting that big effect, that I can share with my neighborhood. So with the friends, and he goes, well, you're going to have to earn yourself. So I went out and got a job at selling subscriptions door to door, trying to sell newspaper subscriptions. Even though that was a job, it still gave me my first feeling of earning $1, right? And I wanted to know and learn how to earn more of that in order to get the things I wanted, even at that early age. So remembering that experience going through high school and getting out of high school. I went to a Johnson or a community college to get a culinary degree, which I did not finish. I started and I felt that just the way my mind works, it's very sporadic, and I'm always interested in just about everything that there is, and which really is not good when you're trying to focus on earning money, But I had to learn to curtail that type of behavior, and so I got into the restaurant industry because I like to be creative, And being in culinary school, you have to be creative in order to pull a masterpiece of a product together in order to get some type of validation of what you've done. And so I went into the corporate world, the corporate landscape, and I found out real quick that that was too structural, and meaning that I wasn't opening my eyes to what was my needs of learning or growing and seeing what's more out there. And it really restricted my growth as an entrepreneur spirit. And so after being in the corporate landscape for a while and really hated the aspect of trying to climb that ladder, if you will, I took a plunge and at the age of 24, I went out and opened up a grocery store, and it was a small market. And after a year, I said, you know, this is crazy. I'm working 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and I have 3 employees, and this is not sustainable. So I went back into the restaurant industry and back into corporate, soon to find out that, again, this is not for me. And I had to save the money that I needed to start out my first venture, but I also realized that I didn't have enough money to do it right. So I had to go out there and pitch friends and families and business owners my business plan in order to get my first restaurant open. And what I found out, not everybody has the same enthusiasm that I did about it. So, you know,
isn't that amazing how that works out sometimes? It's like, why can't you see what I see?
Right.
This is so good. Why aren't you giving me $1 million right now?
Right. It was crazy. So I was lucky enough to have a few family members believe in me, and so one of those family members knew some other professionals, attorneys, CPAs, and stuff like that. CPA really helped me out with some leads on that. But in the end, we got it open, and when I found out that even though that you have a great concept and that in your mind you think it's a great concept, and you get the concept off the ground, and you think that that everybody, once you open the doors, everybody's just going to show up, and not realizing, and I'm talking 30, 40 years ago, that that you didn't really plan things out the way you wanted them planned out, because one, didn't have enough capital. And so, and not having enough capital to foresee how the market economic changes, not doing feasibility studies, your target market's not there, your price point's off, the message of your brand wasn't there. All those things that I know now that I didn't know then was a learning experience, to say the least. That being said, I was successful for my first 8 years, and then me and my partners, parted way, and then I went on to my next venture.
It's interesting, Mike, because you started that whole process, and you probably didn't know it at the time, but you started that whole process in the mindset that goes against every single piece of business advice that you'll ever hear, and that is, if I build it, they will come.
That's true.
The hope marketing, right?
Yeah. Which was never a word in marketing. So
yeah, right.
I mean, I remember the amount of money that I had to invest back into it and raise for the first year just to keep it going, because you blew through the money that you had, and I remember one of the partners saying, "This is the last $25,000 I'm putting into this place," But anyways, it led me to several other brick and mortar restaurants, and that are still open, successful, and sold, and went on to others. And but anyways, all that experience taught me one thing. It taught me to to stay true to yourself and persevere through whatever obstacle there is. That's the mindset of an entrepreneur. But as a business person, two different beliefs, or people in the business world. But I think that it molded me in a way where it kept me, the entrepreneurial part of me kept me restricted from the obstacles, if you will, because it kept me going. It kept me going. The business part of it, I had to learn as I went, because I was wet. I was wet behind the ears. I didn't have any formal training, no formal education in business. I didn't, so I had corporate background experience, learning, everything that there is about processes and P&Ls and marketing and all that stuff. But it's different when you do it on your own and you're wearing all the hats as a business owner. When you're lean like that, you have to find ways to juggle all the different responsibilities that comes with having that much risk on your shoulder.
Yeah. Isn't it interesting if you go back in history, right? Go back in history and think about when Henry Ford stepped off the boat into America for the first time, and that transition he made, and ended up being one of the men that built America.
It's crazy.
That's crazy, right?
It is crazy. I have a little bit of knowledge on Henry Ford and how he started the assembly line, and everybody thought he was crazy. I want to mass produce all that stuff, but yeah, you're right. I mean, to have that type of thinking and not knowing what the next step was going to be, but you just have a lot of belief in yourself. That's the first step, because if you take that away from your being, you're already defeated. You'll never get anything off the ground,
Right.
So,
and a lot of people, I think, make that mistake is they get to the point where they are inundated, right, with too many things or too much going on at one time. Hell, I know that feeling. I've been there a bunch of times, right?
Right.
And I think what truly makes somebody continue, right, is that drive to win, right? And there's a reason why most people are employees, right?
Right.
There's a reason why, and it's because they're not wired that way.
Right.
Most people aren't wired to, number one, take risk, right? The mass amounts of risk that we take as business owners is unfathomable to most just civilian employees that work out in the market, that they're an executive assistant, or they're a plumber, or they work for a plumbing company, or whatever that may be, right? Because they're so institutionalized to, I come to work at 8, have my lunch, go back to work. I'm off at 4:30. I go home. I spend time with my family. I'm not getting hammered with bullshit that the boss is getting hammered with all night. Right? And it's a whole different mind frame, right?
Now that mind frame, I think, we're like you said, we're wired differently because not just the fact of taking the risk, but now you become a coach, a father, a leader, and a marketer, and all these things that you have to juggle, and making sure that you're lifting people up that doesn't have that mindset to perform at levels that you expect and beyond what they expect, and to do that and stay focused on the prize in the end zone, is very daunting, because you have to compartmentalize everything inside of you in order to control what the end result's going to be, or at least the goal's going to be. I think that spending the time to putting a concept down in your mind and putting it down on paper and bring it to fruition takes not only a certain amount of aptitude to make that happen, but it takes a team of warriors to make sure that to see and follow through with that. No matter if it's an online business, no matter if it's a brick and mortar business, or if it's a large corporation, it takes a lot of I don't know what the right word is. I mean, I can choose a lot of words, tenacity, whatever it is, to make sure that happens. I do have a small story about, about that. You know, I don't know if you've ever heard about the story about the home plate.
No.
It's probably too long for this podcast, but at some point I'd like to bring that up to you. But it's about not widening the plate, but staying within that plate. The home plate at Little League is 17 inches, right? The home plate there's a story behind it, but I'm trying to shorten it. But the plate at every level of play or every level of league is 17 inches, you know, and the coach comes out and says, you know what, Jimmy, looks like you can't hit the plate. Let me widen that up about 2 inches for you so you can hit the plate, you know, and then, you know, let me go to 24 inches. Well, the thing about it is, if you're going to give in, back to business, if you're going to give in to your standards, you can't be widening the plate every time you turn around, because next thing you know, you're giving up what your goal is, what your mission is, what your identity is, and what have you. And if you keep on making that mistake of widening the plate, the message doesn't get sent properly to your consumer, doesn't get sent properly to your employees and what have you. So, yeah, it's a tough standard to hold, but it's a message that means a lot in order to get your end goal. So.
Yeah. It's like I always say, don't make excuses, make progress, right? And it doesn't even matter how much progress it is, right? As long as it's going forward, that's progress, right? As long as you're not taking steps back, right? Because we all know in the market today that we can think of every freaking excuse there is to think of why something doesn't work, right? But what's different between the people that succeed and the people that don't, right, is they keep freaking trying over and over and over and over again until their head is so bloody. I know, I've been there many times. Your head is so bloody that finally you wipe the blood away and you go, oh, there it is. Right? And you did it. You got through it, right?
Well, going through it's always the pain. When you look back and you look back, you say, well, that wasn't so bad, because you don't remember the pain. You know, you just so believe me, I know exactly what you're talking about. I know you've gone through the same thing. So
yeah, for sure. Well, hey, that was really great discussion around a variety of different things. And there's a lot of little nuggets in there that can be caught for sure that I hope the audience catches. And to kind of continue on that vein of things is, you know, as business owners, I really think it's our duty, right? For those of us that we've had all of this experience, and I feel the generation above me has done a really crappy job of really mentoring, like truly mentoring, right? Mm-hmm. And they will, but they want to check for it, right? So I want to build this bank of business struggles where a young CEO can come in here and basically go from episode 1 to episode however many we make it to, and just miss arrows. They just miss them, right? So if you could share one business struggle out of your, I'm sure, truckloads of them, reach in there and grab one that you think is really, really useful to share, and share it with the audience, and really how you overcame it.
Well, that's a tough one there. I think looking back, is learning how to ask for help, or at least seek resources in order to grow, and step back and look at your operations so you can grow. You know, and as I sit here and pause, and I think there's a lot of thoughts are running through my head, but I think it really is letting go of trying to do everything yourself, and and utilize and empower your employees, whether it be on site or off site or online or whatever type of resources you have, in order for you to have a certain amount of sanity to see the vision take fruition. It was in my earlier years that was very, very difficult because I felt like the only person who can do it right was me, period. Get the hell out of my way. You know what? I've said 3 times, and it's 2 times too many. So, I said, so next, get out of here, and that's how I used to play the game. And I had very little patience, and I felt that in order to get it done, that I had to do it, and no one else was going to get it done properly. So I had to get out of my own way. I had to trust people, and I had to let them fail and empower them to give confidence and make sure that if I was going to grow as a business owner and be able to strategize the next phase of my business, I had to make sure that I had a lot of belief in the team that I was putting together, and learn how to delegate those responsibilities and not do the tactical stuff. Something that you preach about a lot. I think that that was a struggle for me in the beginning, and it was important that that I had to get out of my own way and put trust in people. So, yeah.
Yeah. I call it the baby effect.
Yeah.
It's our baby, and we know best, right?
Right.
When actually you really don't most of the time.
You're right. You want to know. You want to feel like that, you want to know and stuff like that. But and there's a certain amount of pride in knowing and wanting to. But even that, you'd have to kind of push that aside. Forget about pride. Just be a sponge, learn from others that have already been there. And continue to learn, and don't shut the door on that book, or the cover on that book, in order to continue to gain that experience so you can share with others later on. And that's what led me to what I'm doing now. So
yeah, you bet. Well, hey, just to kind of segue and close out the conversation here, I always like to end with this question, and that is, if you could pick somebody that could have been here today, dead or alive, friend, family, mentor, Jesus, Gandhi, whatever, right? Who do you pick to be here to ask that one burning question that you've had?
Well, you know what? I let things just roll off the back of my shoulders, and I don't even look back. So I if I get pissed off at somebody or something, I just go, no one's ever helped me before, so why are you even asking now? So I just keep on going forward. So that's a tough question. So I would have to dig deep in my my Rolodex of thoughts, which is very limited. I would have to. I don't know. That's a tough question, and I'm thinking of, I don't even have an answer for you, to tell you the truth. There's several people. I would have to say my father. I'd have to say my father, and the only reason I say that is because, he's always been supportive, but and this might sound rough, but the question I would ask him, I said, why didn't you prepare me better for business? Why'd you, it's tongue in cheek a little bit, but there's a little bit of truth to that. I said, it's a love-hate relationship, business is, right? And so, even though that I had that entrepreneur spirit, and I wanted to go 100 miles an hour and make sure something happens, and we all want security, and that's why we do that, and for part of the reason, anyways. But I think that question is like, what the hell did you get me into? why didn't you warn me about this stuff? So it's not one of your typical answers or questions to that question, but that's the best I can come up with. So,
well, it's funny because I grew up in a very entrepreneurial family. My father was a farmer, right? Yeah. And my mom ran 2 or 3 stores in town, and I watched them for years, and they did good, right? They provided for the family, did all that stuff, right? But if you look at what today's standards are, it's much different, right?
Oh, much different. Yeah.
I remember my dad, he had a red freaking notebook, and he would sit there and write numbers out in that notebook. And it just was like, how do you even I couldn't even do it, right? Yeah. No way. I couldn't even keep track of it, right? Yeah. We're used to a P&L. Imagine a P&L and a freaking red notepad. Right? We're just used to logging into software and going print. Right. So yeah, it's interesting. And I could say the same thing about my dad. It's like, why in the hell didn't you share all this stuff? Right.
Yeah, it's not a really great answer to a question, but like I said, I tend to I just let things go and I move on. I don't dwell on anything. I don't let things bother me that much. My thought process is really short and sweet, and I have to dig deep sometimes. So,
well, there's not a lot of time on the planet to get too worked up about stuff. I mean, I get worked up about things. I think for me, it's more my passion gets in the way. That's for me. That's what it's about for me. I get so passionate about things that, I do let certain things get to me. So it takes a lot to like get my head to pop off, no doubt. But
well, you bring up passion. I mean, that could be misconstrued. People, passion. A lot of people look at a behavior of somebody thinking they're emotional. Well, and that emotion is about being pissed off and angry. It's not. It's about doing something right to your best ability, and and you want the people around you to be the same way, and you try to get that through them, and you just can't do that sometimes. And so you have to guide them through the process, and if they don't get it, you find another position somewhere else for them, or you find them another responsibility or whatever. So
treat them like Melton, move them to the basement. Well, hey, thanks for all that, Mike. I appreciate it. How do people get a hold of you? Where do they find you at?
Well, they can find me at macoconsulting.com, MACO consulting.com, and all my information's on there. So that's the best place they can contact me. So
very good. Awesome. Well, thanks for taking the time out of your schedule to be here with me in this moment today. I know time is precious. I know your day is crazy. So it's an hour of your time you decided to take here with me, and I am very grateful for that.
And I greatly appreciate what you're doing as a whole and inviting me on this podcast. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, hey, thank you for attending today's episode of War Room Moments. Remember, dream it, believe it, and then go achieve it. This is your podcast host, Jason Miller, signing off.
Thanks for listening to War Room Moments with your host, Jason Miller. Please leave your feedback and visit strategicadvisorboard.com to get the latest and greatest business advisement on the planet. Follow us on social media for updates, and we'll see you on the next episode.